What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video where today we're going to be going through my updated college football playoff bracket predictions. No, again, this is not a if the season were to end today. This is not a prediction of what I think the college football playoff committee should do. This is what I think the college football playoff committee will do as me, myself, I project the season forward. So this will be projecting the remainder of the games and the way I think the college football playoff bracket is going to shape out. Before we dive on into it, though, I'll go through my usual spiel of just thanking you for all your support and interact with the channel any way you can and all of that good stuff. Go give me a follow on Twitter. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe if you'd like. Anything you do to interact with me on any social media platform helps support me, especially if you interact with YouTube. It helps support what I do specifically on this platform. But I also would just like to apologize, and I know I really have nothing to apologize for because technology issues happen sometimes, and sometimes they happen at the worst of times or at the busiest of times, especially for me, myself, as a sports media student. A lot of stuff going on right now, but thank you guys for hanging in there with me. If you see a face cam, it means I've figured something out. If you don't see a face cam, then, well, I severely apologize for that profusely. But we did find a way to record everything and get a video up for all you fine people, which is exactly what we are doing today. So let's go ahead and go through my college football playoff bracket. Again, apologies for all the technical difficulties and things I'm dealing with, but I really, really appreciate all of you for still sticking with me. Let's dive on into the college football playoff bracket where there are a couple changes that I will talk about, but my number one seed has not changed. The winner of the Big Ten Conference is going to get the number one seed, and right now to me, well, that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. I do think that they're going to win this game against Indiana this next week, and you'll find out a little bit more about that in a preview prediction video coming out later on here. Probably end up coming out tomorrow here on this channel. I'll upload a preview prediction video for that game as it is the biggest game of the week. But again, if they win that one, they'll make the Big Ten championship game because they should be able to beat Michigan. And my prediction, again, Ohio State, Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. And I think Ohio State wins the rematch in that one there. So they get the one seed and go ahead and move on to the college football playoff, and they get that first round bye. Obviously, that means Oregon is going to be the 5, and you'll see that pop up a little bit later. But let's talk about the 2 seed for a second. The 2 seed, I still firmly believe, is going to go to the SEC champ. Well, who would that be right now, Nate? Last week, I told you I thought it would be the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I still think it's the Alabama Crimson Tide. So, okay, how would that happen? Texas and Texas A&M right now is looking like it is going to be a full-blown SEC play-in game. The winner of that one makes the SEC championship game, while the loser of it, out, done, nada. Your season is over. So that's the way that it's looking like it's going to shape out. It's the way it's looking like it's going to go down. And then you have to go into this vat of 2 lost teams to sort of see who is going to play the winner of Texas A&M, as long as they take care of business this week, obviously, in the SEC championship game. Right now, the leader in all the tie-breaking scenarios, and obviously the tiebreaker that they would use would be the overall record of every team you have played in conference. Alabama would be winning that right now, even with Missouri's loss, even with LSU's loss. I think that they're still in front of Texas A&M or Georgia, who are the next 2 most likely teams in terms of the win percentage sort of conference debate. I still think Alabama at the end of the day would win that tiebreaker. They'd move on to the SEC championship game where they would play again, the winner of Texas A&M or Texas, and no matter who it is, I do think Alabama is going to be sitting right there as the SEC champ still. They are at number 2. The pressure is on this team I have here at number 3. I still think Miami will make the college football playoff, but the pressure is really on them now, right? Clemson has done everything they need to do to try to get their spot in the ACC championship game. Miami has got 2 conference games left. It is up to the Hurricanes, ladies and gentlemen, to really figure out what it is that, well, just be able to win their last 2 games. If they win their last 2 games, they're going to get into the ACC title game. SMU has got a couple of opponents that they can't sleep on in Virginia and Cal. You got to watch out for both of those teams for their own respective reasons. But when you take a look at the way everything is shaping winning out. Miami is winning tiebreakers against Clemson, and SMU, for all intents and purposes, looks like they're going to make the ACC championship game. So that, I think, is the ACC title game, Miami, SMU, and I think Miami, Cam Ward will put the team on his back, and Miami survives with the 3. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a change at number 4 with the way BYU looked this past week and the eventual result in that being a loss, with the way the Big 12 is shaping out right now, and Boise State continuing to find ways to win. Welcome Boise State into the top 4 spot. I had this as a weekly takeaway. I'm not sure what week, but I had this as a weekly takeaway in one of my videos, and I had told all you fine people, I was like, hey, look, Boise State can absolutely make a run at being a top 4 seed, and right now, the College Football Playoff Committee has them in line to do it, and right now, I think they are in line to do it as well. And at the end of the day, no matter who the Big 12 champ is, whether that's BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, or Arizona State, who are the 4 teams that are pretty much still alive for that running, I'd be surprised if a 3-loss team gets into the Big 12 championship game. Then, yeah, Boise State's going to earn themselves a top 4 bid. They're going to earn themselves a first-round bye. Are there any other group of 5 teams that can compete? I mean, Army and Tulane both got ranked by the College Football Playoff Committee. They're going to be playing in the American Athletic Championship game. Do I think that gets either of them anywhere? I mean, no, not necessarily, not really. I don't really think that Army or Tulane, as long as Boise State wins out and wins the Mountain West, that they're going to get that group of 5 spot. Boise State has a couple games where they could slip up, but I don't even think they're going to be playing their most dangerous competition, which is UNLV, in the Mountain West Championship game, because right now Colorado State is in line for that, and I don't see Colorado State losing another game the way they're playing some football either. So with everything that I project to be happening and the way things are looking right now, Boise State is going to be that team that is going to get the top 4 seed, a first-round bye, and they will get the group of 5 spot at number 4. I already mentioned Oregon is at number 5, so we'll flash that up there on the screen now. The Oregon-Boise State matchup can still happen, but Oregon now would have to win a game first, and we'll look at who's 12th a little bit later. The Big 12 champ is in this bracket. It's not another group of 5 team, but we will see who that Big 12 champ is when we get there. I think Texas right now is in line to beat Texas A&M, and I like them. I favor them in that game against the Aggies, and again, I just have them losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game, but there's an interesting conversation to be had with Texas and the team that is at number 7 in the Penn State Nittany Lions. Resumes are going to be hurting both of these teams because Texas, I mean, they haven't played many super tough teams this year. Like, yeah, they have a road win against Michigan. I guess that's going to look good. It's a road Power 4 win, but Michigan's not a great team this year. And Texas, one game they had at home against a super powerful opponent in Georgia, well, they lost that game. And the rest of their SEC schedule is not the best. It is not fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's going to boost with a win against Texas A&M there as well, but Texas, their resume does hurt them overall. Penn State, same thing. I mean, who have they played? Yeah, you go on the road and you smother West Virginia. They're starting to play their way back in Big 12 title contention, but they're probably not going to get there. They lost their only game against the team that, well, would absolutely jump that resume tenfold in the Ohio State Buckeyes, lost that game at home. But what's Penn State's best win? Maybe the West Virginia win, maybe the Washington win. It's definitely a little confusing to try to figure out because they didn't play Oregon. They don't play the Indiana Hoosiers. Penn State and Texas, I think they're going to give the nod to the team that made their conference championship game, which is why Texas is 6 and Penn State is 7. I've talked about Notre Dame in a couple of videos here already up to this point, especially in my weekly takeaway video, but people got to stop sleeping on the Fighting Irish team. And I actually saw a headline that came out earlier that said Notre Dame is using some voodoo helmet gold magic to have them host a college football playoff first round game, which I think is utter nonsense and is absolutely ridiculous. I think the committee is seeing exactly what I and some other college football fans are seeing as well. Yes, they have the loss to Northern Illinois on the resume, which looks bad. There is no denying that that does look bad. At the same time, this is a Notre Dame team that has a lot of really good wins. They've beaten Georgia Tech. They've beaten Louisville. They have a chance to beat Army. They have a road win against Texas A&M, and it's especially going to help Notre Dame's case, and maybe they even jump over Penn State. I likely don't see that happening, but maybe it does happen if, again, Texas A&M moves on to play in the SEC championship game, which is still a possibility, and Notre Dame can can possibly have a win on the road against the eventual SEC champ. Texas A&M can go win the SEC title game. It is a possibility to have happen, so you have to consider it. Notre Dame's resume is not as bad as people think. They do not play as soft of a schedule some people think, and Marcus Freeman's squad is playing some damn good ball right now. They are my number 8, and I think the committee will see it that way as well at the end of the road. Number 9 is the Ole Miss Rebels. I have a prediction that I think that there's going to be at least one, if not multiple teams and fan bases in the SEC that are going to be very, very disappointed with the way that the college football playoff rankings, the final college football playoff rankings, shape out. In the most recent rankings, it was Tennessee, and it still is Tennessee, because I have Ole Miss at 9 and I have Georgia over there at 10. Nate, why? What is the reasoning here? And it's actually pretty darn easy. You look at the way the playoff committee has been ranking those teams. I mean, they're already in the college football playoff field. If they went out, they're going to get into the college football playoff field. Ole Miss played themselves back into it with that win over Georgia. Georgia's got a win on the road against Texas, and they've played an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. And again, if they're one of their only 2 losses is on the road to Alabama, who I have as the eventual SEC champs, then yeah, that's absolutely going to be a case there. But now this is where things get interesting. The number 11 spot is where I think things become really fascinating to talk about, because again, one team is going to be left out that probably feels like they deserve to be in. And to me, the Indiana Hoosiers and the Tennessee Volunteers are the 2 teams that I am looking at to fill the number 11 hole, because with the way the Big 12 is shaping out and all the chaos and the way the committee has ranked those teams, I think the Big 12 champ is going to end up getting that 12th seed at the end of the day. But this number 11 seed, the last at-large spot, do you give it to Indiana, whose best win projecting forward, if they don't beat Ohio State and Columbus this weekend, which obviously I don't think they're going to. I think Ohio State is going to be that number 1 team at the end of the day. Then what's their best win? Washington, Michigan, Nebraska? Not really anything super inspiring, right? And that's where the strength of schedule comes into play for Indiana. Or the Tennessee Volunteers, right? They're going to have a win over the Alabama Crimson Tide, a team that I have winning the SEC. It would especially elevate that win if Alabama does win the SEC. The way that teams are ranked right now, it obviously depends, right? If Indiana keeps that game close and maybe loses by single digits, if not under 2 touchdowns to Ohio State, that's going to significantly improve Indiana's chances. If they get blown out in Columbus, I mean, good luck keeping them over Tennessee. But the way the committee is ranking teams right now and the way that I expect the game in Columbus to go down, I think Indiana's going to get that number 11 seed. And again, that's not final right now, because if Indiana gets blown out, you're probably going to see me drop Indiana out of the college football playoff field and Tennessee getting in, depending on how the committee ranks teams. But if Indiana's only loss at the end of the day is a close loss, which I believe that game is going to be very competitive, to an Ohio State team that goes and wins the Big Ten Conference, that will wind up being the number 1 team in the nation, I think Indiana deserves a spot in the college football playoff. Tennessee's got a loss on the road to Arkansas, which I don't think is a bad loss. But again, compared to the resume of Indiana, they do have the better wins. As long as Indiana keeps that game close in Columbus, I think they give themselves a great shot to get into the college football playoff. Again, if that result happens, if Indiana loses to Ohio State, especially if they lose bad, we'll have to see how the committee ranks teams to really make a full-blown pride and true decision. But the way I see things shaking out right now, I think Indiana will get that 11, and the Big 12 champ will be getting the number 12 seed. Is it still BYU? Is it Colorado? Can Arizona State or Iowa State play their way back into the folds? BYU kind of feels like a team that is going to have another loss inevitably. Maybe it's this game against Arizona State this week. Maybe they make the Big 12 title game and it's a loss to this team. But anyway, you slice it, guys. I think the Colorado Buffaloes are going to be your Big 12 champs. Hats off to Coach Prime. Seriously, hats off to Coach Prime. Big claps to Coach Prime. What he's done to improve the line of scrimmage, especially. And you got 2 of the best playmakers in college football. Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, lots of really good wide receivers. LaJohntay Webster, whatever his last name is, gets overlooked and is going to be an excellent value pick in the NFL draft. So that is how my college football playoff field shakes out. But guys, that's kind of where the changes end, because as you project the bracket forward, I do believe that, all of my picks from last week are going to stay the same. I still think Notre Dame is going to win their first round game, which, yes, at this point means beating the Ole Miss Rebels. And here is why I think that. So I'll tell you why I think that after I show you a couple of my other predictions. So I have Oregon beating Colorado. I think that one's pretty easy to see. Colorado, great on making the college football playoff, but if they do, the run will end there against Oregon. They will move on. And then I do think still that Penn State moves on and they beat Georgia. Now, let me explain the Notre Dame and Penn State picks for just a second, right? Notre Dame. This is the team that I think is playing really, really, really good football right now. Penn State, a team that they got to get some things sorted out with the run, but what is going to help both of those two teams especially is that they will be hosting first round games, and it will be in environments that Ole Miss and Georgia probably are not going to be comfortable playing in. It's probably going to be cold. It might very well be snowy, especially that game in Happy Valley against the 10th ranked Georgia Bulldogs, at least the way that I am projecting things, right? Notre Dame is absolutely a team that can win a college football playoff game, that can go on a run. And if they have the home crowd behind them, especially if it is a cold environment, that's going to favor Notre Dame and Penn State heavily. They're in Happy Valley. They got the crowd behind them. It's a cold environment. Guys, the Tennessee bench was complaining in Athens, where it was 55 degrees, by the way, that their bench warmers weren't working and they were looking to seek warmth. 55 degrees. Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. Those are teams that, well, okay, maybe not Oregon, but Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, some of these other teams, even Boise State in colder weather, they're going to look at you and they're going to say, you're complaining about it being 55 degrees? This is a normal fall afternoon here. This is shorts weather for us. That is going to impact things significantly. And it's why I think Notre Dame and Penn State win their competition in the first round if they get to host a first round game, which I'm projecting them to do so. And then Texas beats Indiana Hoosiers. It was a nice run. But even if that's the Tennessee Volunteers, I believe the 11 seed will go down to my eventual 6 seed in the Texas Longhorns. And the rest of the way, the bracket remains the same. I think Ohio State beats Notre Dame. Good run for the Irish. I think they're playing some good football, but I think Ohio State's going to be able to get that one done. Boise State and Oregon, that could be a really close one, but Dylan Gabriel, I think, is going to be able to outduel Ashton Genty and the Boise State Broncos. So Oregon's going to be able to win the rematch there. And that one's setting up a third meeting with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Alabama, I do think, is going to beat Penn State because when you get Jalen Milroe and Alabama's best, they are going to be really, really, really hard to stop. And then Miami and Texas. I mean, Miami's been a shaky team all year. I think they find a way to win the ACC, but then their run is going to end no matter who they play, even if it's the Indiana Hoosiers and they're able to pull off an upset. I think Indiana's got what it takes to beat Miami, and I got Texas moving on. So you have a rematch of the Big Ten championship game, a rematch of the SEC championship game, and my national championship picks have stayed the same, guys. I got Ohio State beating Oregon in the rubber match, so they go 2-1 against the Ducks in 2024. I do think Alabama will be able to beat Texas in an SEC rematch. I just think, again, when you get Jalen Milroe, Kalen DeBoer, and Alabama's best, they're really hard to stop. And then Ohio State winning the national championship. I know they had another offensive line injury. We'll talk more about that when I preview the Indiana game, but I mean, nothing has shown me that Ohio State is not capable of winning a national championship. They were my preseason pick. They've been my pick since I've been uploading these videos, and I am going to stick with it. Oh boy. All right. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I, again, hope you had a face cam to watch along with it. But in case you didn't, just thank you for listening. Thank you for at least observing my college football playoff bracket. And again, bear with me while we figure out these technical issues and while we bear without having my main source of recording for the time being. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.